Flashback.
Alright. So today is new tire day. Got my appointment to get my tire installed on the front. And where I normally wear leather, at least a leather jacket, I'm not wearing one right now because I don't have a way to transport the tire with me to the shop. So what I had to do is put it around my body and ride with it, because I don't have a sissy bar and I have no saddlebag. So I'm here at the shop. I gotta find a parking spot. Pull up over here. I don't know where service is actually. Might try to pull up to the back-ish. See if service is over here. It might be over here. I'm not sure. Well, I'll just park over here somewhere and then I'll look for. I'll have to go inside. All right.
End of flashback.
So, I got my new tire on. Check that out. Oh man, I'm stoked. Squeeze on back here. Well, I left it on. I'll take that off later. It might not bother me. If it does, I'll rip it off. Oh, yeah. So the technician right now came over and told me that when he jumped on it to take it back there to get it worked on, he said, wow, that thing's torquey. He didn't realize, and I left it in rock mode. I guess he didn't realize how much power in these R18s, and he works here. Oh man, there is like such a big difference on this tire. Man, my front steering is just freaking crazy right now. Freaking nuts, man. That makes a world of difference. That is so crazy. Oh man, it feels so weird having that new tire on there. Man, this tire, like, oh man, I forgot what it's like to have a brand new tire. It's so crazy, like it feels freaking nuts right now. I need to remember that too. I like to write down like little notes about my bikes and stuff whenever I get something major done. So I need to make a note for I got a new tire at 10,900 miles. That's what I was at when I pulled in, I think. And I'm only at 908. They did drive around their little place a little bit for a minute, so. Yeah, back to what I was saying before I got to the shop. Getting hit by the car and then recovering from that is the hardest thing I have had to do in my life. And the recovery side of that taught me that I can do anything. Like, yeah, I went through a series of depression afterwards. I actually gained the most weight I've ever gained in my life. I got up to 250 pounds, pretty much just because beforehand, I never really worked out. I wasn't doing anything. I was just like, you know, I played guitar on stage. My workout was jumping around and dancing around like a monkey for people that want to listen to some rock. That was my workout. I was relatively somewhat athletic build. Thought I would stay like that. I never really truly worked out though. So then just laying around and eating and kind of being a little depressed, not really doing anything, really not playing music. Took a while to get back onto some shows. I did play one show where I wore an arm brace while playing guitar.
He got into a pretty horrific motorcycle accident where he flew over a f***ing car. And we thought we wouldn't be able to make it to the show, but he's here. So he played half a set on bass.
And I even had to switch over to the bass for a little bit, because I couldn't finish some of the songs on guitar. So I had a buddy step in, cover on guitar while I covered bass. And I think I got video footage of that. If I do, I'll hop that in over me explaining right now. But I gained a significant amount of weight, and I didn't really have the drive to try to do anything. I was just really down. So I ended up booking a double show a couple months later, when I'm technically relieved to go back to work and start doing things again. But I still wasn't really doing anything. But I booked a double show, and 2 nights happened to be during Valentine's. Went down, got a little drunk, kind of got a little bit more sad that I didn't know what I was doing with my life, and I wasn't really happy. Wasn't really fully 100%, still had some problems with my arm and my strength and things like that. Had trouble walking still. Came back from that 2 nights and couldn't sleep. A friend of mine texted me when I was struggling to sleep and was like, hey, trying to catch up. I'm like, yeah, I'm a little, can't sleep, got a lot on my mind. And they're like, look, you need to get your mind off some stuff. I have husky and a wolf hybrid, and they just had puppies, so I'm slammed with puppies. If you want to come over and play with some puppies and help me out for a day. And I said, yeah. I show up to go play with puppies, and by that time I actually had bought another bike. That's when I bought my Harley. I got my Harley while I was actually still in recovery. So I'd slowly been riding my Harley because I needed a ride. I'm the kind of person that just because I went down on a bike, it was not my fault. That's not going to be the thing to scare me off the bike. And that wasn't even the first time I've been hit on a motorcycle. I've been hit 3 times. That was my 2nd time. Honestly, it was my worst time I've ever been hit on a motorcycle, but it was not the one that was going to scare me off. So I was already riding my Harley at that point, and I rode my Harley over to my friend's house, and the first puppy that bit me, I ended up taking home with me. And they were about a month and a half old. They were really little. But, well, they were young, but they weren't little because they're wolf hybrid mixed with husky. They were really big puppies. But, yeah, and she was selling them. But she saw how bad shape I was and how I felt, and I've known her for years. So, she actually gave me my black dog, Jax. I'll put a video right here of Jax. That's how I got Jax. And the great thing about getting Jax is high energy breeds, you have to walk them and run them pretty much every day from a puppy age going forward, because they get destructive real fast. That wolf tendency, they want to test being the alpha. So I learned a whole lot. I'd never had a dog in my life. He was my first. I learned a whole lot about alpha wolf-like animals. And at the same time, I was forced to go out on walks every day. I'd take him for walks 3 times a day, then it turned into 2 times a day. Then it turned into 2 really long walks, then those walks turned into running. And then that running turned into us going out for jogs constantly, and then that jogging turned into me losing weight. So it was ultimately a good thing. These were all things that had to happen in my life. Like, I needed to go through this. And honestly, that was setting the course for the life that I'm on now. Like, even the fact that I'm, filming these and talking to you guys, and talking to anybody that'll watch this, and giving dad advice. The dad advice thing that I do is because I thought about how there's little things that I've learned over time, and it's things that have been told to me, or things I read, or things that I just kind of observed in my own life that I thought were good things to remember. And at some point I realized, man, I want to push that on to other people, because growing up I didn't have a dad. I didn't have a dad around, at least, that would. Nobody taught me these things. Nobody told me these things that I needed to know. I didn't have that strong male role model. And then I look at some of the content that's going out now, and these kids are watching just TikToks and dumb things, and even other young adults are watching dumb things. And they're striving for something, like, they're striving for purpose, they're striving for things that are just, nobody's teaching them the way. There's just no guidance. And I'm like, man, I didn't have guidance, and I had to learn it all on my own. Wouldn't it be cool if there was somebody I could watch that did things that I was interested in, and I watched them and they told me little things, and maybe I'd be, you know, at work listening or driving on a ride or taking a ride, or I'd be driving and I'd hear, you know, that advice, and maybe that advice applied to me, maybe not that day, maybe it applied to me like in a month or so or down the line. But wouldn't that be cool if I could reference, like, oh man, I remember hearing that from this dude, and it's always some good advice. And that goes back to the first episode I made. My dad advice there was, be the change you want to be. Be the change you want to be in this world. And that's where I kind of got that from. I thought about it and was like, man, like, I don't see the content existing that pulls these worlds that I'm interested in together. It's up to me. And then, you know, when I'm older, if I die, my kids can go back and watch this, and they can hear their dad get these things. And it's things that I talk to my employees about constantly. I talk to my friends about. It's things that I actually have real conversations with people about. Well, they're going to get that advice. They're going to get that. And they'll have a way to reference it. Even when I'm gone, even when they can't always remember it, maybe they're just feeling nostalgic and they want to, like, look back at these videos. So I went out of my comfort zone and started filming things that I do. And I never wanted to be on camera. I never wanted to put myself out there. Like, and that's funny saying that, because for the longest time, 2 decades almost, I've been playing live music in front of people and bands, and like jumping around on stages with a guitar or a bass or something. And you would think I'd be the person that'd be comfortable being in front of people on stage, that I would just be like wanting to be front and center and have attention on me, and I am not an attention seeker. I'm just not. Woo. Was in the wrong lane. This new tire is kind of throwing me off a little bit, because it's so easy to throw this bike around already, and that tire being so brand new, and I guess it's like properly inflated, it also is like just making it so easy to turn. And I forgot that this bike does that so easy, because it's been a minute since I've had a new tire. It's exciting to have a new tire, honestly, because I know I can, if I got about, what, 10,900 miles out of that first front tire, I mean, I've got another 10,000 miles ahead of me with this one. And then I'm thinking I'll probably have about 3,000 miles on that rear tire before I got to change that, which that should get me through probably riding for at least the next 2-3 months through this winter. So I won't need a tire for a minute again, so hopefully January or so. We'll see though, because I do tend to ride a lot, especially when it gets colder. I tend to ride a lot as well, so that might change, obviously. Putting these videos out and doing this, that was my core reason. I want to help people, and I want to be the content that I don't have to find. I like watching other motorcycle YouTubers, and I like watching a lot of guitar related stuff where people review equipment, and they review pedals and guitars and amps and things, and I enjoy that stuff too. And I'm hoping maybe eventually I can do some of those things, like show you guys pedals and kind of go in depth. It takes a little bit more time to make that kind of video, and requires me to play with it first to be able to understand it, so I can explain it to you guys. And maybe that'll be interesting to somebody that just rides motorcycles. But maybe I'll just do videos where it's like, I'll just show you how to get a quick sound, or a couple quick sounds that I like, that I think are usable for like the guy that's not gonna sit there and nerd out over guitar. He just really wants to rock. Because honestly, when it comes down to it, I'm not the guy that's gonna go in depth into screens and on a pedal that can do a million different things, or an amp that can do multiple different things. I am a plug and play. I plug my guitar into an amp, plug it into maybe a overdrive pedal or a delay, and I can just kind of get my tone, and then just start playing, and I'm good to go. And I know there's other people out there that are super technical, and and they practice techniques, and they do neoclassical guitar riffing, and that's cool. There's always a shredder. I appreciate shredders. I was never a shredder. I was a songwriter primarily, and then I just also enjoy hardcore music and punk music, which there's like the differing levels of that. There's the hardcore punk that's semi-technical, and then there's the hardcore punk that's really like people that are sloppy and trashy. And apparently in that world, whenever you're sloppy and trashy and suddenly you start playing well or having better recordings, you're a sellout. That's a different story. I don't really understand that. Like, why can't people just grow and mature? But same token, us musicians happen to be the ones that are always like, yeah, I don't like their album. I only like them when they had the demos. That's like a real thing too. I don't even get it. And I'm that person too. I tend to like the demos, and then an album comes out, and I know how much it takes to put out an album, what goes into that, and even then I'll still be like, yeah, I like the demos better. There's just something raw when you hear the demo, like a band that didn't really have like input from the outside of a producer or an engineer, and this was just them trying to get their idea out, and you hear those little raw takes. Like, I love that. Like, it's interesting to me to hear that stuff. And a lot of that corresponds over to motorcycles. At least for me, seeing somebody's concept for a motorcycle coming out, like this BMW R18. This bike, the concept for this was that they wanted people to buy this bike and then change them, customize them for themselves. And like, come on man, what's going on over here? And that's, people do that. I mean, you look at the Harley world, people buy Harleys, nobody keeps the Harley stock. If you ever been on a stock Harley, those exhausts are quiet, that seat is hard, it doesn't come with forward controls stock out the factory, it's got mid controls, it's got no crash bars, it has nothing for you to stick your legs out on. You always see everybody change over to all these things that they think look cool, but not necessarily for function. At least in my opinion, I don't think it's function. Like, part of the selling point of this bike to me was the mid controls. I like mid controls. I don't have particularly long legs. I'm 5'10", but I have a longer torso than I have legs. My inseam is 29 inches. Not particularly long inseam. I just have a longer torso, which gives me that extra height. So this bike's perfect for me. It's low center of gravity, low seat height, and feels comfortable. And honestly, if there were forward controls on something like this, I'd be sticking my leg out like really far. I just noticed something on my pipes, but I don't know what that is. I wonder if I can clean that off. I'm guessing something sat on the pipes when it was hot. I'm gonna have to look at that. Looks like it melted on there. Oh, more bikers. Nice. I always stare at bikes. It's a bike thing. You ride and you stare at other bikes you see on the road. I just like to see other bikes. Like, I like bikes. I was just at the shop. They have some bikes for sale. They don't have a lot of bikes. They honestly work more on Can-Ams, side-by-sides, things like that. But I mean, they had a Triumph in there. They had like 3 Harleys, 2 BMW K1600s, a Triumph, a bunch of Yamahas, and a bunch of Honda Groms. And I honestly stared at the Honda Groms and the Triumph. Like, actually I looked at the BMWs too. I can't help it. Like, once you kind of get into BMW, you start looking at all the other brands and all the other models of BMW. Yeah, I did sit on the Grom. I really like Groms. If I started doing more fun riding, just kind of in an area where I didn't have to go over 60 miles an hour, pretty much anytime I leave where I live or I have to head to the studio, I got to get over 60 miles an hour. So a Grom just isn't very versatile for my use, but I really do want one. Those things look so fun. They look so fun. I want one so bad. Like, man, I want a monkey bike so bad too. They make that Honda Monkey. I'd actually probably want one of those over a Grom, honestly. But I checked out that Triumph. That Triumph wasn't bad. I like the Triumph. It was just a normal street twin. And I tried, before I bought this BMW, I tried Triumphs too. Went and looked at Triumphs, went and looked at Moto Guzzies and the Ducati Scrambler. Like, there's a lot of bikes that I looked at. I only ended up getting this because it was just the engineering, the architecture, everything that I saw about this bike just looked crazy. That, like, I was like, if I'm gonna have something and people are gonna look at me up when I'm on the road, I want to not just be like, oh, somebody kind of ignores that I'm in the lane next to them because it's just another Harley, it's just another sport bike. I was like, if I'm gonna be on the road, I want people to give me that second look. That second look might save my life. Which comes back to my accident. That accident I had changed my life. Like, I started looking at the future of how I ride, the future of how I play music, my legacy with music, and my legacy with how I was living my life. I didn't have kids, I wasn't married. I was actually engaged at the time, and of all things, my fiance decided to dump me the day after I got hit. I guess that was her breaking point. And honestly, in retrospect, that was the best thing to happen to me. She got out the second she noticed that it was going to take things away from her life and her time, and it showed me how selfish that human being was, that they weren't that invested in me and in us as a partnership. So yes, it's hard trying to move on from a relationship when your body is broken. Having your heart broken at the same time is not easy. But in retrospect, I was about to go through the toughest amount of healing I'd ever done in my life, and that was the best time and way to do it. And it's what I needed, and I don't regret it. I'm so much of a stronger human being now from going through that experience. And then at the same time, my band had just lost its singer at the time, which, in full disclosure, at the current moment, I am looking for a singer to start performing in a band again live. Possibly different styles of music. I've got a lot of different things I've been writing and working on that are all different genres, different styles. So we could go a couple different ways. So I am actively looking for a singer. And I've been auditioning people, and I've been looking for people and talking to different people. That's a whole different story. I've probably gotten into it a little bit in other videos. I can't remember right now. And I'll get into it more because I'm still talking to people. It's just, I'm not limiting myself to just one style or one type of thing. I want to keep my mind open and keep my availability of genres and things I can do open. So if somebody can match more of those things to where we can cover more ground, I'm very much open to it. And I'm not sure if I'm going to document some of that process here or not, but there will be crossover. You'll see it. But for the most part, I'm just keeping this rock and motorcycle oriented. So today's dad advice. It's not about how hard you get hit, but it's about how fast you get back up. I got hit really hard. Not gonna lie. Got hit really hard. And I learned a lot from that hit. Today's the anniversary of that. I call it my death day. It's the day that I died and I started living. I'm living my life now for the future. Before then, I was just kind of going day by day and taking things by how they happened and when it happened, and just day-to-day basis. I didn't really, I planned. You try to plan, but your plans aren't really plans. You're not really thinking long term. You're just trying to get through the day, get through the week, get through the month. And you're honestly probably dealing with people that are doing the same. They're just trying to get through their day, their week, their month. Everybody's got bigger ideas, but you're not actively working on them. And a lot of times people, they're talk, they're not action. And I changed that day and started being action because I had to. Things have to be planned for me to work. I can't do things last minute. And then looking at a business or looking at having a family or relationships, even a marriage. A marriage isn't just you waking up in that day talking to your partner about what you're doing that day. 90% of a marriage is communicating. It's communication. You're talking to that partner. You're planning things out. Because you still have lives. You're still working. You're still doing your own thing individually. But planning things out, communicating, and making sure y'all are both on the same path. That's the investment that you want. And when you're just going to day to day, you're more likely to try to be with somebody day to day. And when you're focused on just getting through those moments in the short term, you end up being with people that are also just in those moments for the short term. And then when things turn into them actually getting real-time look at their life with you in a long term, that's when you see the real them. And that's when they bail, or that's when they commit. And that's when you have to also level up and look at it and go, oh, I see them committing, or I see them not committing. I need to figure out what's going on here, if it's worth it. It was a big point in my life. So remember, pull hard and play hard.